Waiting nervously outside a London prison, two men, Mark Crawford and Harry Dew, are engineering the escape of the jewel thief Ted Mace. The prisoner clambers down a rope and is bundled into the back of their car, which screeches off.
Double Danger, written by Gerald Verner, produced by Leonard White, and directed by Roger Jenkins.
Suddenly another car pulls out and blocks them. Al Brady and Bert Mills jump out carrying automatics. They snatch Mace, shoot at the tyres of Dew's car, and speed off with their hostage in the back seat. With his transport now useless, Crawford opens fire on the vehicle as it disappears. After hours in his surgery, Dr. David Keel is visited by a woman in distress. Her husband has cut himself badly on broken glass at their home in Palmer's Drive. She tells Keel her name is Mrs. Marsden, and that she has a car to drive him there. Keel gets in the car and realizes he has been duped. There are two men inside. They have Keel blindfolded for the journey, which ends at a houseboat on the river. Once aboard, he quickly realizes the story he has been fed was a fake. The woman is called Lola Carrington, not Marsden. They are most certainly not on Palmer's Drive. But there is a patient. Brady, who appears to be the ringleader, gestures to a prone figure on a bed. "There's your patient, Doctor. I'm afraid he stopped a bullet," he says dispassionately, clasping an automatic pistol. The patient is Mace. The escaped prisoner Keel examines him and warns him that unless the bullet is removed soon, he will not survive. Brady orders Keel to operate with whatever he has to hand. Keel demands proper equipment. Reluctantly, Brady has Keel list his requirements. Mills will pick them up from Carroll at the surgery. Brady studies the list. "What's this at the bottom?" he inquires. "It's not English." "Phonem aqueous. It's Latin, the name of a sterilizing solution," says Keel. Brady relents and has Mills deliver the note to Carroll. He must tell her that Keel will be back late and that she need not wait for him. Meanwhile, in the back room of a Soho pawnbroker's, Crawford and Dew are worried. They fear their boss will be angry when he learns they have lost Mace. The shop bell rings. The boss has arrived. "Where's Mace?" asks a familiar voice. It is Steed. Dew and Crawford explain that they had him but were intercepted, and that they don't know where Mace is now. Steed is not at all happy. He has his suspicions regarding the identity of the rival gang and sets out to locate Mace. At the surgery, Carroll fills a bag with the items on Keel's list, and she's confused. They do not tally with the injury Mrs. Marsden reported. And then there is the coded message, "Phonem aqueous." Mills departs, and Carroll attempts to call Steed, but he is out. She replaces the receiver. She is worried. Meanwhile, Leonard Bruton, a stout, middle-aged man, is also making a call. He questions Brady about Mace's condition. "He's got to recover, long enough to tell us what we want to know," says Bruton. He tells Brady that the doctor must be eliminated as soon as Mace talks. The medical equipment has arrived. Keel begins the operation, with Lola acting as nurse. He soon has the bullet out and treats and bandages the wound. But Mace remains critical. Brady issues Keel with a stark warning. "If he dies, you'll find yourself in the river with him," says Brady. Back at the surgery, Carroll receives a visit from Steed. She explains that Keel is missing and in danger and hands him Keel's note. Steed reads it. "Phonem aqueous? Hardly Herodotus. Equus means horse," he remarks. Or Steed, Carol interjects. And phonum isn't a Latin word at all. Don't you see? Phone, steed. Carol reveals she has discovered the woman who came to the surgery, gave a false name and address, and is sure the items on the list would be useless for treating cuts. Mills returns to the surgery to deliver a note from Keel. Carol recognises him and warns Steed. He tells her to wait at the surgery, and he trails Mills on his return journey. On the houseboat, Keel's patient remains comatose. Lola sits beside Mace. Keel realises that there is some connection between the two. After a short while, Mace stirs, and Lola goes to find Brady. Mace, painfully, whispers to Keel, The plot. It's John Bartholomew's plot. His head falls back. Ted Mace is dead. Later, Mills returns to the houseboat, unaware that Steed is in close pursuit. On board, Keel has grabbed Lola's handgun, but Mills hits him from behind with a chair. Brady disarms Keel and threatens to kill him. Lola dissuades him. She thinks Mace has said something to Keel before dying. Out in the night, Steed resorts to a small deception and calls out as if communicating with a large number of accomplices. "Sergeant, bring your men back up behind those trees. But keep back. One of them's got a gun." The crooks panic, arguing amongst themselves. They flee as Steed comes aboard. Brady fires off a couple of parting shots, but Keel dives for cover and is not injured. As they recover their wits, Steed takes a look at the dead body. He recognises the face. "I arranged to get him out of jail a few hours ago. Seems I've done him a bad turn," Steed comments regretfully. Steed has been acting for an insurance company. Mace had been jailed for the theft of £200,000 worth of uncut diamonds from the Hatton Garden jewellers Lowenstein and Bruton. The diamonds are still missing, and Mace was the only lead. Keel reveals the dead man's last words about it being John Bartholomew's plot. But Steed is none the wiser. Keel asks him how Mace came to be shot. "The escape car I arranged was ambushed," says Steed. "I wondered how my plans leaked out, but now I know. Mrs. Mace, the woman who entertained you tonight, Lola." Meanwhile, Brady attempts to explain his failure to Bruton, who is less than impressed. Brady reveals that there is still a chance to recover the diamonds. He believes the doctor knows something. Steed and Keel leave once the police arrive at the houseboat, but are trailed by Mills. Steed drops Keel at the surgery and takes a late-night drive to a cottage that the Maces once rented. Next door, he meets the owner, an elderly man who confesses he was glad when the Maces left. He also recalls a letter delivered recently addressed to a Lola somebody, which he had returned unknown. Outside, Mills trains his gun sight on Steed. A parlour window shatters. The shot merely grazes Steed's forehead. He mouths a quick apology and prompts his host for his name. "Bartholomew," the old man confirms, as Steed runs out of the cottage after Mills. Carol is preparing for the morning surgery while Keel is out on an early morning call. She receives a visitor, Brady, who abducts her at gunpoint. They leave by the back door just as Steed arrives and lets himself in at the front door. Using the surgery telephone, Steed calls his superior, 110, and asks if there was ever a John Bartholomew associated with Ted Mace. 110 thinks not. Mace was a lone hand. As Steed finishes the call, Keel arrives and wonders if Carol might make some tea. The telephone rings. It is Brady. "We've got your receptionist. She's unharmed, but if you want her to stay that way, you'd better tell me what Mace said before he died," says Brady. Keel tells him what he wants to know. Steed promises to find Carol and call as soon as he can. Brady now tells Bruton of Mace's dying words, but the big man can shed no light upon them. He warns Brady not to try to obtain the diamond haul for himself. At the pawnbrokers, Crawford and Dew report back to Steed. They have traced Lola Carrington, the estranged Mrs. Ted Mace. Steed tells them to pick her up and bring her to the pawnshop. Carol is being held at a run-down lock-up garage. Brady and Mills think Keel may have told her about Bartholomew and prepare to interrogate her. Carol feels a tingle of fear run down her spine. Bruton rings Brady, but Lola answers. Brady is at the garage. Bruton feigns a small loss of memory to tease the address from Lola. 17A Hart Street. Later, Steed and Keel arrive at the pawnshop, where they find Crawford, Dew, and Lola, who they have picked up. Steed presses her for information on Carol's whereabouts, but she is decidedly uncooperative. When Steed threatens her with a stay in the shop's rat-infested cellar, she relents and makes a deal. She will help if she is protected from Brady. Back at the lock-up, Mills has bad news for Brady. Carol has escaped. He received a telephone call from Bruton calling him away. When he got back, the girl was gone. They realize that Bruton has double-crossed them and is behind Carol's escape. Soon after, Steed, Keel and Lola arrive at the lock-up. Brady and Mills confront them and suggest they are in league with Bruton. "Dear old Leonard Bruton," Steed says. "I always thought he must have rigged the job with Mace, but Mace double-crossed Bruton, and Mrs. Mace double-crossed her husband. Then you double-crossed Bruton, and Bruton double-crossed you. It's almost as complicated as politics." Brady and Mills tie up Steed, Keel and Lola and leave them at the back of the garage. They plan to start up the engine of an old car, lock the doors and leave them to die of carbon monoxide poisoning. Meanwhile, Bruton is tending to Carol at his home. It slowly dawns on her that she has traded the frying pan for the fire. Bruton questions her about Bartholomew. Fearing for her safety, she throws her hot cup of tea in his face and beats a hasty retreat. Back in the lock-up, Lola overhears Brady and Mills discussing who Bartholomew might be. She tells them Bartholomew was her and Ted's landlord, and gives Brady the address. Brady repays her by having her gagged. Mills starts up the engine, and they shut the garage doors behind them. The car's exhaust pipe splutters. Brady pays a surprise visit to Bruton. At gunpoint, the jeweller pleads for his life and offers a 75% cut. Brady is unmoved and shoots Bruton dead. He wants the full 100. Meanwhile, Carol arrives back at the surgery in a taxi. She is shocked to find Mills waiting for her. He means to shoot her, but is disturbed by the taxi driver, who overpowers him. Mills escapes. The taxi driver comforts Carol and offers to take her to the police. In the garage, Lola has fainted. Keel manages to loosen Steed's bindings. Struggling for breath, Keel manages to drag himself to the car and turns off the ignition. And then he too collapses. Steed makes for the doors, pushes them open, and the fresh air begins to dissipate the deadly gas. Steed and Keel recover and set off for the country, bundling the unconscious Lola on the back seat of the car. Steed fears that Bartholomew's life is in danger. Brady has arrived and searched Bartholomew's cottages and has found no sign of the diamonds. He interrogates Bartholomew, but the old man turns out to be no pushover. He tells Brady that he is too old to be frightened of death. It'll be nice to be with Gladys. She's been gone these last 15 years. Go on, sonny. Use it. Everything's took care of, all paid for. Not a penny owing. It's just our plot, waiting for me. Brady's eyes light up. John Bartholomew's plot. Before long he and Mills have found the grave of Bartholomew's wife and start digging. They soon unearth a rusted tin containing the diamonds. Suddenly a voice punctures the night air. It is Steed's. "I'll take those, Brady." He has a gun. With Steed in control of the situation, Keel goes off to the cottage to check on the old man, leaving an umbrella for his friend as the rain starts to fall. Mills moves to seek cover from the downpour. Steed motions for him to stay right where he is. "But it's raining," pleads Mills. Steed looks on, amused, sheltered from the rain by his umbrella. "Thank you for that information," he says archly, "but I find this keeps me quite dry."